Hello and greetings, everybody. Welcome to Real Talk. What episode are we on now? We're episode 25. I do believe, if I'm not mistaken, today is the 21st of May, 2021, and we'll start with some housekeeping issues. And thank you for joining. First of all, the first thing I wanted to pass on to you is we are we respect the time that you're giving all these live shows. So here on Real Talk, we're going to commit to try to keeping the shows short, an hour or so in duration, and not to add any content which will be back to back to other people's shows and so on and so forth. So we're not going to be adding stuff next to the other guys' shows and so on, and we're going to try to be respectful of your time, because asking folks to come to 3 back-to-back shows with 2-hour, 3-hour, and 3-hour shows is just too much to ask. So I want to thank you all. I'll let you all know that I respect your time, and we're going to be careful to try to use the time we have with you very efficiently as best we can. And so with that said, hello everybody and welcome to Real Talk. The beer this evening is Stella Artois. By the way, this is the Solstice Lager, which is my favorite. Hello everybody. Let me see if I can get the guest today, which is Blackland Razors on, as well as So Sharp David. Let's see if they're active yet. Blackland. Just a minute, if you'll bear with me. I appreciate it. Always takes just a second to get all this stuff going. Get it going, indeed. All right, let's go for So Sharp David now. Sometimes he is fashionably late, so we'll see if he's ready to roll, and they'll pop in just a moment. How are you folks doing this evening? You're doing well? I hope you are doing well, because I sure am. By the way, as I've been saying like ad nauseum, if you don't have this, you want this if you're a citrus lover. It is fantastic. This is maybe
My
one of the,
apologies.
oh,
I couldn't hear what you said.
something is talking to me. I don't know what we got going on there. But anyway, let's see if we can get anybody joining here. Blackland Razors join. Maybe he'll pop in. There we go. Request. There we go. Just a moment. Yeah, Sea Spice Lime is really good. I apologize for the delay. It always takes a few minutes to get things set up, so we'll try to be more efficient with your time. I'm trying to add Shane here. Hopefully he'll pop on in just a moment. Let's see if David is available yet. Yes, I have sent request. Hopefully he shall accept. Sometimes the Insta is a little wonky, so again, apologies for that. There we go.
Hey, Chris, how's it going, man?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Oh, I'm doing great. Nice to see you.
Likewise. I'm not sure if David is joining or not. I guess he will jump in if he arrives.
Cool.
So what's the hat? What are we wearing today there?
This hat? So
Yeah.
I actually don't remember where I got it from, but it is the most comfortable hat to cover up my super long hair. It's awesome because you can like collapse it and you can just fold it up, and then it will just go back to sort of normal. So you can just throw it in a bag, it gets wet, it's like super comfortable, molds to my head. It's not like those regular ones with the rigid bill that I kind of hate. So
Nice.
yeah,
I like
it's an
it.
awesome hat is the answer to cover up bad hair. So it's perfect.
Well, nothing wrong with that. So when we were talking earlier in the week, you're like, these things are always nice. There's not a lot of tough questions or anything. So I figure we'll start off with the tough
Let's do it.
question right away.
Yeah.
And this is one that I think it's always a difficult question for razor makers like yourself to answer. What do you think of this razor right here? This is this is the roster. Now, I didn't know until today, even the name roster was a take on Vector. I did not know that. And well, anyway, I'll have to forward you that that information. That had something to do with television tubes or something. But anyway, let me just start out by saying there's no comparison really between the two. I've used both. Both are good shavers.
Yeah, of course.
Obviously,
I hope so.
obviously the Blackland Vector, made of stainless steel, made in the United States. The fit and finish is considerably better. You would expect it. It's machined. This one is not. So that's my little piece. Just about, in terms of shaving, they're both good shavers. This one is smoother, and obviously I've been saying since I've used the Vector, this is, I think, the best single edge razor, artist club style, ever made. And so that's just the way I feel about it. I say it all the
Appreciate that.
time. So what's your take on the roster here?
Yeah, I think the first thing is that it's a little bit of an honor to be knocked off. You know, like that's cool. And the fact that even the knockoff shaves well, I guess, is a good a good thing for the original. So that's my base like personal feeling. And of course, you know, people who are in the market for a Vector probably aren't going to buy that, and vice versa. But you know, there's nothing to say that tomorrow they don't come out with an exact copy machined at a quarter of the price point. And so right now it's really easy to be like, hey, it's just it's a cheap knockoff. So who cares? But what about when the knockoff stops being cheap? That's what I'm concerned about, and that's where I think the community has to kind of like decide what they want. So I've been kind of vocal about that, and I don't know that there's a good answer here because no matter what you do, you're kind of putting somebody on the spot. You're either saying like, hey, like, because I've been on record like asking forum owners basically that they should have some sort of mechanism to protect the artisans and the creators who are one literally funding their site, right? We pay vendor dues to be there, and who also create the things that allow their forum to have discussions about, right? Like there's not a whole lot to talk about. People aren't making things. So, I've been pretty vocal about that, but I also understand the other perspective where people go like, well, why would you control what I can talk about?
Yeah.
And so, I obviously have a dog in this fight. So I have I have to draw my line in the sand where it benefits me and what's right for my business. So I can understand both perspectives, but ultimately I do think that a little bit of protectionism, either like in some sort of systemic way, but really I think more valuable is just getting people to understand the impact of supporting knockoffs and supporting cheap copies, and the fact that that does have an actual impact on creating new designs and creating new products. Like I've talked to people who have made razors that have been knocked off, and they're less incentivized to make more stuff. So we get to, as a community, decide: do we want to incentivize people to create new awesome stuff, or do we want to incentivize people to just not bother because the R&D funds is just actually helping some other guy? And I don't know that there is like some big rule that needs to be placed down. I think it's, I believe in the free market, and people have accused me of being against the free market, but the reality is like part of the free market is like encouraging people to act a certain way. That is free, right? And so I encourage consumers and customers and forum owners and people who even run groups to, I'm not asking for like the band hammer to come down, but I do think that we should have a real talk and a real discussion about what we need to do to protect our community, if we need to at all, if we care. And if we decide as a community, hey, we don't care, we'll just keep buying the cheap knockoff, then we'll just stop making new stuff, and we'll lose that kind of drive to make new things. So that's how I feel about that.
For me, it's a difficult thing to grapple with, because the fact of the matter is there's always a first of everything. There was a first car, there was a first everything, and without improvements down the line, and sometimes those improvements come at cost and various things, we'd still be driving the motor wagon around if there wasn't someone who was inspired by that design, and so on and so forth. I completely understand the point about not snuffing out innovation. But there are also people who have told me this week, for example, hey, I bought this razor because I could get in the door with an artist club style razor, and now I'm going to buy the Vector because I want something that's much better. But this one sort of got me in the door. It was a gateway device. And there are those people, and there are also those people who just flatly don't think they can ever afford $200 for a safety razor. For many, it's not a lot of money. For some, it is. Now, that said, I think it's one of those things. It's a difficult question to grapple with. For me, when it comes to banning discussion in a shaving forum, to me that's contrary to the purpose of a forum. I'm always for discussion and open. I think more discussion is better, not less. However, the forums do set the rules and so on and so forth, and so I certainly understand that.
And I'll tell you what, like, it's also not like we as vendors in forums get to do whatever we want, right? Like
Yeah.
I can only post in like my little tiny corner. I got to be put in a little
Yeah.
box over here. So, you know, I don't even have the same ability to like counter things because I can't even go into that main part of the forum. So on the one hand, I am literally paying for access to the forum, paying to be there, paying, but I'm restricted in my ability to engage there. And then at the same time, the forum is going to wide open up the ability to discuss someone who's just knocking off our designs, who isn't paying member dues, who isn't engaging in the community, who isn't putting in the time and energy every day to come in and answer questions, whether about our products or not. I spend hours a week on forums and groups just trying to pitch in. They're not, right? And so there's a certain amount of how much we want to help the community. So I get all perspectives of it. And if I wasn't sitting in my chair, I'd be have the other opinion. I think both are equally valid, and I get them. But you know, I'm here for a reason. So I've got to protect mine. You know, what are you gonna do?
At what point does it become okay, though? A year, 2 years, 20 years? I mean, does the vector, you created this one, and again, from my perspective, I love it. I'm happy to have purchased it, but can no one ever make a razor anything like this, or share or use any of the attributes of this razor? That to me is where the difficulty is.
The answer is that they always can, and they can now. They can do whatever they want,
right?
And that's it. It's not about can or can't, or about like arresting people if they do stuff. You know, I have a very specific you know, mission here. Right, my mission is to protect my brand, to sell razors, and so I'm going to be here fighting that fight. And you know, I'm not here to make some like moral judgment and be like, hey, this is 18 months, then we can start adding this feature, and it, like, I can't do that. And so, you know, it's a constantly moving scale, and I get that, like, that bugs people. People want things to be black and white, like, oh well, you know, that hat wasn't invented by the hat you bought, like, you know, stuff like that, right? Like,
right.
So there's people always want there to be these really clear dividing lines between things, and there just aren't. You know, there's just me fighting for my business and fighting for also like the people in our space that make things. Like, how many Rex ambassadors do we need in the world, right? We got to have like 6 of those. And then people go, oh, it's a knockoff of the Gibbs, and it's not. You know, he puts a ton of effort into basically make that thing able to be made via CNC, be able to made super tight tolerances, and he like rebuilt that from scratch. You take a concept and build it from scratch. Are you knocking off them? I don't know.
Well, you would have to agree that there was a first Artist Club style razor of this type. As far as I know, the Cobra, for example. No, I remember years ago people getting very upset when Razor Rock made the Hawk. And I was like, well, yeah, it shares some attributes, but it's not the same razor as the Cobra nor the Mongoose. And so for me, the problem, the protectionist point of view reaches a point where if the Hawk was never made, then people can't get a $70 Artist Club style razor made in Canada, which is a value. I'm just giving the consumer side of the argument.
Yeah, I totally get it.
And so we would only have had the Cobra. You know what I mean? And I think we're living in a better space now because the vector is here. But the vector might not have been here without the Cobra. From some you might have come up with it, maybe not. You know what I mean? So that's where I'm like, these things kind of eventually something comes after it. So far, there's nothing better than this, in my opinion. Maybe at some point somebody makes something that rivals it, not to date. But
I mean, and I'll tell you this, like, you know, it's not lost on me that a $200 razor is ridiculous and out of the price range of most people. I think it's insane. Like I've said this many times in the past, like I probably wouldn't be my own customer if I wasn't in this space. So I completely understand that, and I understand people trying to get things in their price point. Obviously, I do the same thing. You gotta. It's not incumbent on you as the random consumer to pay my ridiculous price for my razor because, like, oh, innovation or whatever. Like, no one really gives a shit because they have to get food on their table and they can't pay 3 times. I get that. And so I will say that in that front, just like we're doing with the Era, where I believe that we can use innovation and like new technology to basically fight that directly, right? Like, I don't necessarily expect people to triple their budgets to support people in the community and to support American-made things, But I do think that there is a margin that people are willing to eat that. And I
Right.
think that, my job and my goal is to get that within the realm of possibility. Like with the Airag you're talking about, $75, that's not cheap. That is a quality piece. It's a reasonable budget. But you're talking about maybe stretching your $60, $50 budget, and that becomes reasonable maybe.
Right.
To now, but if you're talking about a $50 budget becoming a $200 budget, I think that's too big of a canyon. So my
Right.
goal is to have it both ways, right? Like I want people to
Hmm.
support the original, but I'm trying to meet them, but without sacrificing any of my my standards or any
Hmm.
of my core beliefs to do so.
I think that the thing you said that really means that really resonates with me is, hey, I'm a razor maker. It's my job here to protect my brand and so on and so forth. And that makes perfect sense. And so anybody who's watching, I think that should probably make perfect sense that, yeah, I'm making this razor, and clearly this one is, it's not 100% knockoff, but, clearly this one wouldn't be around without this one.
Yeah,
I don't think anybody doubts that. And so I think both sides warrant discussions like this. And
yeah,
for me, whenever I use them, it's funny because I get crap from both sides. They're like, "Oh, why are you using that cheap knockoff?" Well, the reason is to say, "Hey, let's try it. Let's see how it goes." On the other hand, when I say in the same video, "Oh, the Vector is the best Artist Club style razor even made," then people are angry because they're like, it's just you
yep,
can't win.
yeah. And to be clear, I don't get offended by any of this. I don't care. Like on a personal level, it doesn't bother me. Like if somebody, if I see on my feed somebody using the Yaki version, whatever, I don't care. People, it makes sense. People have to buy the things that is best with their money. They have to put their money where they think is most reasonable. I get it.
Right.
But also people get mad at me for saying things. I'm fighting for my job. This is
Yeah.
literally my livelihood. Every razor I don't sell is money taken out of my pocket, right? And it's my job to do that. And I would expect anyone to
Right.
do that for their family, for their jobs. And whether you are 100% like obviously on the moral high ground, or whether it's like this where you can see both sides of it, you got to take the
Right.
side that as long as you're not being like an amoral dick about it, like as long as you're being respectful and a reasonable person, you've got to take the side that protects what you've built. So
I
of course
think
I'm doing that.
one thing that people may not understand, and you understand this better than most, it is not inexpensive to have things made in the United States. We have labor laws, we have standards, we have OSHA, we have all sorts of protections and laws that to make something at this level, uh, and you can do it probably, but I don't know how you could possibly make money on it. It's
Yeah.
very difficult to make something inexpensively, and it's not necessarily a level playing. Well, it's not a level playing field
No.
in terms of what you have to go through versus how it's done in China.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about artificially devaluing a currency so that it becomes like artificially more competitive to have labor made there. I guess ridiculous. Lower standards of labor. Like I have an employee, he gets benefits, he gets paid well. I care about him, and I care about all of my manufacturers and their employees, and I know every single person that works there. And I know I've met all of them personally, and I care about that. Um, but also people are making these things in China as well. Like we can't forget that those are real people. They have
Yeah,
jobs, they have
correct.
families too, and that's good. And that also has been like the greatest responsible for like the most number of people rising out of poverty and in the last several decades at any point in human history. So there's a lot of that. But we do have a moment here in America where we can like to some extent support quality, support well-made things, and still also support like the worldwide economy. I think we can kind of do both. So all I'm asking is that people be a little cognizant of what they buy,
Mm-hmm.
and think about how that impacts the community, and think about like what kind of things they want going forward. Like, do you want a world where there's a bunch of new products, a bunch of new razors, or do you want a world where you can just buy this thing for $30 or whatever? Um,
Right.
and then also,
But
you know, it's a self-defeating world too, because eventually, like, there's not gonna be anything to copy, right? If we all give up, which won't happen. You know, obviously, it's not that dramatic,
right.
but you know, whatever. The
Okay.
reality is, like, I'll be fine either way. I'll keep making cool stuff, and it's not gonna like impact my bottom line really. I'm not really worried about it. I don't lose sleep over this. I don't personally feel anything. It's business, right? It's like
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
care.
thanks for that discussion. I think it's an important one to have, and I do appreciate it.
Yeah.
Let me ask you an easy question. What's your
Yeah.
best-selling razor of your lineup?
So it depends if you're talking like historically or you know, what time you're talking. But I would
Let's
say
say,
that,
go
yeah.
ahead.
So historically, it's been the Blackbird,
Yeah.
but probably the Vector. They kind of go, you know, 1, 2 back and forth pretty often.
I'm not surprised. I just happen to have both of
Yeah.
those, so
I think
it's
well, I
not
mean,
surprising.
I think like you said, I think like the Vector is, I think the Vector is probably the best, except for maybe the Era, in my opinion. But the Vector is probably the best razor I've made. Just as like a product, I think aesthetically, I'm really proud of it. Functionally, I think it's awesome. I think it did everything I wanted it to do, where it had, you know, the smallest head possible. Like I wanted to go, you know, we were talking about, you know, some of the original single edges that are out there. And obviously the Mongoose is like the you know, kind of the daddy of the three pieces. And what was happening from that time was, like, aside from the King Cobra or the both Cobras, it was basically like Mongoose and then Mongoose copies, and like maybe slightly modified Mongoose
Hmm.
versions of that, but that big old base plate.
Right.
And so the Vector, you know, solving that problem, as I see, like, the biggest problem of that blade type at the time, to me, makes that awesome. And it's just like a crowd pleasing razor. Everyone likes it. It's probably the most universally beloved, where the Blackbird has a super fans, like crazy fans for it, and then a bunch of people who also hate it, right? Like, yeah.
Well,
So both are cool.
you sent,
So
I'm
yeah.
sorry.
No.
You you sent me one of these years ago to try when it was in prototype, and
Yeah.
at the time, I thought the edges were a little bit sharp to the touch, and
Hmm.
I got this one, I don't know, some months ago because I revisited it and I was like, this is not the same razor as that first one I tried. It's very
No,
refined. It's a really terrific shaver. I love it.
I'm glad to hear that. Yeah. And have you haven't tried the titanium, have you?
I have not tried a titanium though.
Yeah, that's a
And
weird one. I mean, it really transforms it. We should definitely hook you up. I think I might have one for you.
um,
But I would love to hear your opinion on that.
okay, so let's get to the one that I know you're really excited to talk about. And honestly, when I first heard about this, I thought somebody was mistaken. Uh, when I heard him say 3D printed stainless steel ray, I was like, whoa, 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 what? Come
Yeah,
again?
yeah,
I was
yeah,
like,
yeah.
wait a minute. There's no machine that's going to spit out molten. And so I did not understand it. And then I watched your spot with Latherhawk, who we'll give a
Yeah,
shout out to, of course.
yeah. We should.
And then you were explaining it. So first of all, explain in the best layman terms you can of how this is accomplished, because to me it's incredible.
Okay, so you saw the Lather Hog, or listening to Lather Hog podcast,
I did.
the Lather Talk. Do you want me to hit it that deep, or do you want me to go like a little bit shallower?
A high level,
Okay.
just so people
Yeah.
can get a feel for it, because I don't think anybody can get in their head how this is accomplished.
Yeah, so this one's weird too, because to call it 3D printing really isn't, like, there's no better word. We don't have anything better for it. I was talking to the guys at 3DO, the team I partnered with to make this razor, and you know, it's basically their proprietary tech, and it's a hybrid model. And because of that, like, calling it 3D printed doesn't really describe what it is. 3D printing, people think of like, you know, FDM desktop printer, where it just extrudes hot metal, or
Hmm.
sorry, hot plastic, hot filament, and you kind of like layer it on top. And that's what people think when they think 3D printing. Or when you think of
Right.
metal 3D printing, you think of like a bed of metal powder, and then a laser comes and zaps it and binds it together.
Hmm.
And this isn't that. This isn't either of those. What this is a hybrid system that basically combines the principles of MIM which is like the thing that the Rockwell Success is made out of. Also, the Supply V2 is that style. So it's a combination of MIM, CNC machining, like traditional machining, and 3D printing. So it's like a hybrid model combining all these into one, and that's what makes it really clever. So the way it works basically is we have powder, metal, the same powder that's in MIM. So we use 17-4 stainless steel. It gets laid down in a very fine controlled layer in think of like a shoebox. Then there's a binding agent that gets sprayed down. It's like wetting sand. So now it becomes kind of rigid, but not hard. Super fragile. You can break it with your hands. So now there's a layer that's bound, and then internal to the machine is CNC end mills, just like you would find on any 3-axis. Oh, David's here.
David, you can send me a request if you want to. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, just like you would find on any CNC machine, there's just multiple of those. The newest machines have 8 of them. The previous ones had, I think, 4 or 6. They're all in parallel. So they are like up here. They drop down after that layer has been bound, and then they machine an outline. Just kind of like, so you're making like 2.5D layers, where it's just like the same vertically, and then lay down another layer, bind it, cut another outline, and then you wind up stacking it like you're building like a pyramid, or you take like plywood, you build things out of plywood that kind of approximates 3 dimensions. So that's what happens, and then the whole build volume gets filled with all that stuff. Now it's that bound, we call it the cake, and it's that kind of brittle but hard bound box, and that gets broken apart. Right now it's manually. Eventually it will be automated. Gets broken out, and then inside there are dozens of parts. So we have them completely stacked like wall to wall, because the more parts you get in, the more cost effective it is. Because we fill the entire build volume with that metal and with that binding agent. So everything gets printed, whether there's 1 piece in there or 100. So the more pieces you have, the better. Which is why you'll notice eventually the Era base plates actually can stack like really neatly. They nest into each other like perfectly. It's pretty cool.
Awesome.
And the reason for that is we can fit more. Anyway, so now you have these pieces. At this point, basically what we've done is, up to this point, we have done all the processes of MIM, where you basically take it out of the mold. That's where we're at. We basically, instead of molding a part like you do in MIM, and in MIM you basically take like a big mold, have basically that same stuff get injected in there, same metal powder, and now it's in the mold. It becomes one hard piece. You take it out, and then you sinter it, and then it binds together. We're basically cutting to that last part. Instead of molding the part, we are printing the part and building it layer by layer. And so now we have that part. At this point, it's oversized because it shrinks in the furnace. And this is a big technical challenge of like how to oversize it exactly right and make sure all the features shrink the same way, because they don't. So that's really difficult. It takes a ton of trial and error, and people smarter than me working on it, thankfully. And then
I got to stop you for a minute.
Yeah, please.
What gave you this idea?
So 3D printing has been a huge part of Blackland since day one. Actually, so I was going through some I've moved both Blackland and my home recently. And so I had just like a bunch of stuff around, and I found the original Blackbird prototype. It wasn't even a prototype, it was just a thing I printed, right? It wasn't a prototype because it wasn't going to be a product. But, so 3D printing has been part of Blackland from the very beginning, from literally day 0, before it even existed. So I'm very familiar with it. I have 3D printing 3D printers at home. All my prototyping is done via 3D printing. All my alpha prototyping, then I get to later stages and we machine. So it's been part of this from day 1, and I'm always looking for kind of the next thing. What's been really important to me over the last few years is getting that price point down. Like some businesses are going.
Did you see Shady's comment there? I'm sorry, it's so ridiculous.
No,
I constructed a Death Star with my used blades. I'm sorry, it was just.
No, you can cut me off whenever. I like being cut off.
Go ahead.
Fun. Yeah, you can jump in. It's your show. So I was looking for a way to get the price down. That's been really important to me, is how can I really think that the sweet spot for a quality product is between like 50 and 80 bucks. I think when you're in that range, you are buying because you expect quality. You're buying because you expect something that's going to last. You're buying something that you think is going to be, durable and well made and made by good people and made by a company who's going to kind of back it. But you're not shelling out like real money. And it's the kind of ballpark where you're like, okay, I can splurge a little bit, but it's not a huge hit. It's not, the gap between 70 bucks and 200 is like mentally a lot more than 130 bucks. Like it's a big jump in mindset.
I agree.
When you're down there, you're kind of like, okay, this is a splurge. It's a really good gift. It's really good for that kind of thing. And so
where do you expect what are you shooting for in terms of price point?
Yeah, so it'll be 75 bucks.
Goal?
Well, it'll be 75 bucks for a razor,
Wow.
Assembled razor. Won't have all the base plates. You can buy those individually. We'll also have like combo kits where you can, not sure exactly what that looks like yet, but they'll probably be like, hey, you can, like the safety bar combo will have like.
So you say base plates. Are you talking about different levels of efficiency, open comb, or?
So that's the whole game, right? There's 5 different levels, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Obviously getting more aggressive as you go up. And there are open comb and safety bar for both. So 10 base plates total. So you can really kind of dial in exactly what you're looking for. So you'll be able to buy those individually. I don't have the price point on those exactly yet. We're kind of fine tuning that right now. And I'm also trying to figure out like ways to kind of have little packages, little kits where you can maybe save if you get 3 base plates or something like that. And then that also helps from my end because I can just make more of those and make sure we, it's just a smart thing to do. So we're looking into that kind of stuff, but yeah.
What do you think? Because I don't know the manufacturing process here.
Well, I didn't finish it yet. Do you want me to wrap that up?
Oh, please. Yes.
It might answer your question, maybe. If not, make sure we come back to it. But so where we're at is we have the part that's oversized coming out of the printer, and now we throw it in the furnace, the sintering furnace, and it basically superheats it. The metal powder binds together, and that binding agent that we sprayed on the layer, that drops out. So then you still maintain all that, all those physical mechanical properties. And we wind up with densities of like 99% of billet. So it's plenty strong, especially for a razor. Like it's way overkill, like everything else we do. It's like all these razors are so overkill for, all these materials are so overkill for a razor.
Mm-hmm.
And now we have our kind of shrunk final hard part. Now it just feels like regular stainless steel. You can smash it with a hammer. It's the same thing as you would get mechanically as you would at a CNC. Then because there are some surfaces, like all the shave critical surfaces, especially on the base plate, like that top flat plane where that undercut is, if you've seen pictures of it, where the blade gets mounted, and also the top of the safety bar, we just go in and do traditional CNC machining, just like normal, to make sure that those all get tidied up. All the kind of shave critical surfaces that we need to be truly perfectly flat. We come in and make sure that happens so that the blade gap, the exposure, all that is set, and that the blade is perfectly mounted flatly. So you're getting CNC where you need it, and you're getting the cost savings of 3D printing everywhere else. And it comes together to be super cost effective.
So my initial thoughts after hearing the price point, after having seen the razor, is almost assuredly, if it's a good shaver and if it's in the hands of a few people, the demand is going to be very brisk. I have a feeling. And so is this, as far as I know, you're the first one to make a razor this way. I've never heard of anybody doing it this way. What do you think it's going to be like to keep up with that initial demand, or what?
Yeah, so we definitely have a plan for that. Because the first thing is that no one else can make a razor like this. You can 3D print them in different ways with, like we talked about, the laser, but not good for scaling. So importantly, kind of as part of this, the reason that I chose this process for what became the Era isn't because I wanted like a little badge that said 3D printer. Like I don't care. It's not about the gimmick of 3D printing. It's about choosing a process that allowed us to get an awesome product with all of the physical mechanical properties I want and all of the geometries I want at an awesome price point. at scale, made in the USA with tight tolerances and all that stuff, everything I want at the price point I want. So that's why I chose this process, not because like I think 3D printing is cool. That's just a big benefit. I've loved that. But so to deal with demand, there are a few things. First, we can meet demand when we choose to. So a big benefit of this process is that you can scale a lot better than you can CNC. For CNC, you just got, the only solution is get more machines. Here we can just have a much larger throughput. And the whole game is basically the ability to print thousands or tens of thousands of parts per month if we need to, and we can scale up and down within like 6 weeks. So this will be on monthly production cycle. Because it's all internal to one machine, you don't have to come in and swap fixtures. You don't have to have tools set up. You know, for people who don't know, on a regular CNC machine, you have to like set up for the next part you're going to run. You have to go in and change out the toolings. You might need to, you're definitely going to change out fixturing. It has to hold the part while you machine it. And sometimes there's more than one operation, so you have to flip it over. And all that stuff has to be, all that stuff takes time, and you can't really scale that very well. And so you reach a point where you reach like maximum efficiency in CNC. And that's the reason why like your iPhone isn't machined, as far as I know. There might be a couple of services that are, but you know, most things aren't machined because it's hard to scale. But here we can scale really well. And I should point out that the handles and the stands, those are all CNC machined traditionally. Those are lathe turned. Right. But those are easier to scale because lathe turning things is a lot quicker than like milling. But so we can do basically thousands of parts a month, up to tens of thousands if we need to. And if somebody said like, hey, we need to double production, by next month we can do that. So the turnaround is really quick because it'll be a monthly cycle of production. Every month we'll be putting out new parts. And so we can take that feedback really quickly and take the data from like month 1, and then by month 3 we can already be adjusted to it. So the first thing is that we can get there. The second thing is that I'm intentionally capping supply for the first 3 months, and we'll be increasing each month production. The reason being, no one's ever made a razor this way. The 3DO, the company making it, hasn't. These are the biggest, most complicated parts they had made. They make like gun triggers and make small components for firearms mostly and other things. And so while we're really confident in the processes and we're pretty sure that it'll work at scale, I don't trust it. You know, I'm not going to bet my business on it. So what we're going to do is cap production at, a pretty low number of just a few hundred for month 1. And
so you're saying soft launch, in other words?
Yep. Gotcha. It's like a 3-month. So the plan is like a 3-month soft launch that increases a little bit in quantity each month. That way we can make sure that all the production is nailed down, all the kinks are worked out. And we can make sure that, importantly from my side, is that the fulfillment is all sorted, because it doesn't do me any good if I sell 1,000 razors and I can only ship 200, right? So we need to make sure that we can match on our side. We need to make sure that production can be smooth on their side. We need to make sure that the in-between, where the razors are assembled, all the packaging, just all that stuff, all those processes. I've never done anything that I think will be as in demand as the Era. Again, we don't know. But I need to make sure that we are ready to handle demand and volume that I've never done before. So we're getting.
Let me ask you this, because
yep.
I saw a comment fly by, and essentially he's asking, in terms of the shave, because that's where the shave geeks come into play here.
Yeah.
What is the Era going to bring that the Blackbird does not? I know I'm putting you on the spot there. That's a very tough question, or the viewer actually asked it. So how do you respond to that? And I'll add David while you're talking.
Well, so the answer is that it's not intended to be like a Blackbird replacement, right? It's intended to be a really badass razor at $75. So it's not. I guess it's a reasonable question, but it's not an important question. Hey, David.
How's it going, Shane?
Good, dude. What's up?
Oh so man, just getting back to the school. We won our game, fortunately.
Nice.
And got here as soon as I humanly possibly could.
Cool, man.
Thank you.
Happy to see you.
Thank you.
So I was answering, David, I was answering a question that a viewer asked. Actually, maybe you can just repeat it, Chris. I don't remember
Well,
exactly.
essentially, the viewer asked David,
Oh, yeah.
what does the era do that this doesn't do in terms of the shave? And Shane was answering that question.
Yeah,
That's a great question.
Yeah, so I was just saying that like the most broad answer is that it doesn't matter because they're not really competitors. Like he's not trying to replace the Blackbird. So I'm not sure the question is like super important. The big thing that it does is it brings all that quality at a third the cost. But also what it does, there's a few other
big.
things though. That's huge. I mean, it's everything. That's the entire game. But trying to bring that kind of quality down to a reasonable price point, that is what it does. But what it also does from an actual like razor standpoint is we have CNC tolerances, we have all the basics covered, but we also have really cool undercuts that you can't make with normal CNC, or that'd be extremely cost prohibitive to do so. So like if anyone's seen my stories the last day, I think yesterday, I posted some pictures of the final production samples I got of the base plates. And there's like this really severe undercut, which is basically, like the safety bar is here and the blade is mounted up here. And what that means is we can like clamp the blade like less than a millimeter from its edge, which is cool. Because I know people are really into blade rigidity right now. That's like the thing, is blade clamping and all that stuff. So that does that. It does it, better than the Blackbird. I don't think the Blackbird suffers for it, so I don't think it really matters that much. But it does that. And also that undercut allows all the lather to flow like perfectly through. Like it is, as far as I can tell, unless you're trying to shave like a Yeti, it is like impossible to clog, which is super cool.
Would you, for me in a DE shave,
Yeah.
the face feel is very important. I like the way a blade feels on my face. The Blackbird is damn near perfect for me. I love how the blade feels in the Blackbird.
It's not the only thing he likes. Never mind. Go ahead.
Well, I love the performance of the Blackbird head. I love the feel. I love the end result. Face feel is huge for me in a DE. Would you say that the, what is it called? Era? Is it era?
Yeah.
Era?
Mm-hmm.
Does it have a similar blade feel on the face
No.
to the Blackbird, or we're talking totally different animal, more of a negative type of blade feel?
So I wouldn't say negative blade feel. I would say across all 5 levels is more neutral to like, slightly around neutral, a little bit negative to a little bit positive. It's not meant to, this is gonna be the biggest problem with the era, really anything I make, is that everyone goes like, well, how does it compare to the Blackbird? And my answer is, if you love the Blackbird, then you've already won, right? We're not trying to replace the Blackbird. I'm not trying to make another Blackbird. And I sure as hell wouldn't make another Blackbird at a third the cost of the Blackbird. That doesn't help me.
No.
We have the Blackbird, that's there. That does Blackbird stuff. That has the face feel that the Blackbird has. It has the efficiency that the Blackbird has. And that sits over there. The era is an entirely different thing. And the era is meant to be a product that sells really well. I don't know if it'll have the same level of fandom, but it might be better to be Toyota than it is to be like, Ferrari or something, right?
People are gonna go nuts. I think the era is gonna have absurd fandom.
I do too.
To it because of this new process. As much as you didn't. I was hearing the process of how you, as much as you didn't pick this process because it's just a cool thing to do, people fucking love that shit. Because it's such a unique process, people are going to fucking fall in love with the fact that it's so different than anything else out there. So I think you're going to have absurd fandom of this razor. Assuming going on the assumption that it shaves well, which I imagine it does. I've heard nothing but good things about your other razors that you've made. I've only used the Blackbird. So I imagine it'll perform well, but it's going to be fucking outrageous the way people are going to love this damn thing, I imagine.
Do you know what the Blackbird does?
Shave?
The Blackbird does Blackbird things.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly what it does. Yeah, I mean, it's
Shane can be
awesome.
the Tony Stark of wet shaving. Leatherhawk sits there.
Yeah, I guess that's like the smallest version of Tony Stark you can be. It's not lost to me either that this could totally fucking fail. Maybe it's just wrong. Like maybe it just doesn't go as well as I think it will. Maybe the razor is as good as I think it is, as the testers think it is. And maybe the production process breaks down and like things just go AWOL, we can't meet demand, and maybe it sucks. I don't know. I'm prepared for both possibilities. I think it should do well, and if it doesn't do well, then it's, I've screwed up. So like I have all of the tools, all the possibilities, and if it goes bad, then it's just like I just made a mistake at some point.
I know you were looking to hit May, and I think you're probably not going to hit that.
We're not in May.
No, what are you looking to now? And I know it's
so
people are excited.
Yeah. So I'd be happy to explain kind of where we're at. We're at the end of the process where like we've spent over a year creating like all these different like pieces of rope, and we're going to braid them together, and we're all like at the very end of everything braided together. There's like a little like phrase like in every little area. So you got to kind of like tidy up those loose ends. So like packaging is like everything is like 95% of the way done, but nothing is 100% done. So packaging is, in production and full custom new packaging. It's pretty cool. I think people really like it, especially for the price point. I think it's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
And so that's.
Let me ask you a question real quick.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned packaging.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you personally put caring into your packaging? Why do you care?
Because it's the product. Like
it respects the product. Yeah.
Well, it is the product, right? Everything is the product.
Agreed.
And I will say that, while I say that, like there are a ton of weaknesses in my packaging, like my shipping box is kind of weak. Some of there are some things I don't like, and that's just the realities of a bootstrapped small business. And what I've always thought to do is just like take steps in professionalism as often as I can. Like my first packaging was absolute terrible. It was a tin box with like
I remember it.
Kind of thing. Yeah, it's awful because I just couldn't afford packaging, and packaging was a frustration for a long time. It's actually pretty difficult to get packaging made, particularly if you're trying to make it in the USA. It's just really difficult. The minimum order quantities are massive. It's confusing about what you need. And it's also like just not my core competency. So it's just something I want to do. And that's also kind of important. But now I've developed like enough relationships and experience in packaging that I'm getting it. So we're redoing all of our packaging right now across the line. Just kind of refining it a little bit. The Blackland box will be pretty much the same, but we're also getting a new logo and stuff. So it's all going to be updated. And then we'll have much better like care card and packaging materials, inserts. So it'll be within a few months, all that stuff will roll out. But I think within a year, the entire experience will be better. The unboxing experience will all be improved. But yeah, the answer is that, everything is the product, right? Like everything from the email you get to being on the website, you're paying for all of that. Mm-hmm. And as a customer, I like to feel like I'm getting something special. And also as a business owner, just pragmatically, what you want is for, as a customer, I've basically decided I love a product before I've gotten it.
Right.
Like you ever something on the way and you're like, I'm going to love this thing. You have no clue.
Yeah.
You've never used it, but you're like, fuck yeah. Because something about like maybe the Instagram or like the ordering experience or just the vibe of the company, or the way the product looks. So then like all you can do from that point is disappoint. And so you want them when they get the box to be like, oh, hell yeah, I love this product before they've even seen it. You want it to like be as difficult as possible for them to reverse their opinion. And so you want to like build up as high as possible so that like the product has to be really bad at that point for you to like switch your mind about it. But if you're on the fence because all the packaging and stuff sucks, then or the overall experience is kind of wishy-washy, or maybe they don't respond to your emails or whatever, then you're looking for stuff. And so it's a pretty cheap insurance, basically. And also, it's just a nicer way to make a product.
Have you ever opened an iPhone, for example, and you open the package and there's that piece of plastic on there, and you pull the piece of plastic and it comes off and it's one piece of plastic? There's something satisfying about that. There's something satisfying about the box. It sets the tone for a good experience. And I know over the years, I've heard many people say, I don't care about that. Put it in a paper towel, put it in.
Oh, I don't, the one that fucking irritates me when people say this. I don't shave with the box. I don't give a fuck if you shave the box. I don't fucking see your ass, but you wash that motherfucker, don't you? So I expect the whole
That's
fucking thing. I expect the whole fucking thing to be a new thing. Like you should respect the product enough. Again, you're not walking around with shit in your ass all the time. You wash yourself. There's no reason why.
I'm gonna hire David to write my copy from now on.
yeah, he could be the Blackland spokesperson. I got a good one for you.
It's really just that it's just that simple. Like again, I don't fucking jump in the shower and not scrub my balls. You clean everything.
Yeah, it's
everything
presentation.
about a new product to be thought of.
Let me ask you this, Shane.
Yeah.
What do you say to the people who say, I can't get this one because it's never in stock, but I can get this one because that's so I did get a bunch of questions that I'm not going to get to tonight, and I apologize to the people on YouTube. But one of the questions is always around supply. And I know I've been looking at your website, you know, things are in and out of stock. I don't see really long gaps, which is good.
Sometimes there are for certain things. Finishes are an issue. But sorry, I think I may have cut you off. I think what you're saying is that like the other ones in stock and like, what are you going to, like, do you expect them to wait for months to like, that kind of thing? Yeah.
That's a spirited question. Yeah.
Yeah. So, no, I don't expect them to. And not being able to stock things is really frustrating. I would say that I've gotten, you know, much better over the years, just as you kind of like get better at doing business. This year, though, a few things have happened. One, like over the last year. I think demand for a lot of consumer goods have gone up because people who have been lucky enough to have jobs have money to burn because they haven't been spending on anything. And so whether that's because of those reasons or because Blackland's getting better, more known, either way, Blackland has grown a lot in the last year or two. So what would have been acceptable inventory in 2019 is no longer. And so I've had to, you know, up my production. At the same time that's happening, everyone else who also uses the same manufacturer is doing the same thing because there's just a run on manufacturing right now and they can't keep up because some manufacturers are closing, so there's fewer manufacturers and more demand. And then now we're dealing with like further secondary COVID effects where there's like a run on raw materials. So now like actually getting raw materials is really difficult. Like I was talking, I think I said last night, that, you know, my machinist, I was talking to them a week ago, and we used to get like 30-day quotes for raw material. And, I'm going to hit that. I'm going to get that peaceful shaver question in a second.
Yeah, please do.
I'm not going to let that one slide by. But so we used to get like 30-day quote. Now it's like immediate. Like it'll go up by 6 hours from now. Like the pricing is so crazy right now. So it's just production is hard right now is the long and short of it. I need to make way more razors and everyone else trying to make way more of everything as well. I think that'll all get kind of flushed out here in the next few months. I think it'll kind of chill, but, you know.
Well, go to Scott's question, but before you do, I want to say, I kind of like just a little bit. I don't know. I've always liked the secure feeling that I'm getting that blade in there properly. Now your posts are so long that the blade's going to go in there. So, but please answer that question if you please.
Yeah.
And the question is about the tabs, exposed tabs on the ends of the razor.
Yeah. So look, especially I agree if we're talking about some of the old school vintage razors where you got like a ½ inch hanging out on either side. Like that's ridiculous, but no one's doing that. And the Blackbird sure as hell isn't doing that. On the Blackbird, there's ½ a millimeter on either side. Go look at a ruler and look at ½ a millimeter. Tell me it matters. Like if you're nicking your ear because of the ½ millimeter, I don't know what to tell you.
Grow stronger and get better.
We should be
at a certain point, you can't save people from being dumb motherfuckers. I'm sorry.
I won't go that far, but you know,
I will. I'm not selling these goddamn razors. If you're fucking stupid, don't buy anything then.
Well, wait a minute. Keep in mind that's David saying it, not Shane from Blackland. Just to be sure.
This is true.
I apologize, Shane. I could be damaging to your brand.
I'm putting you on copyright or probation for a minute. No, I mean, you can't make anyone happy. Well, you can't make everyone happy. So some people use the tabs to insert or remove the blade. That's what they're there for. So that's what I use them for. And I think it's nice to have them. I think a 0.5 millimeter or so is a sweet spot where visually they don't really, it's not obvious. Like a lot of people don't realize that the tabs are open. But you can feel them and you can still use them, and they do everything you need them to do. So I think that's cool. I don't think it makes any sense to have to flip the thing over and shake it to get the blade out. I think that's ridiculous.
Right.
And look, like, that guy wants the tabs covered, but guys like me want them open so you can use them. I don't know. I'm not gonna make everyone happy, and I don't care to, and I'm not trying to. So I'm gonna keep the tabs. I think they're useful, and that's that.
I know. Yesterday, you already told me to kick rocks with this question, but I would still love to see a new Blackbird handle.
Mm-hmm.
Now, aesthetically, it's a beautiful fucking handle. I aesthetically, it's
I'm
gorgeous.
going to be on record and say I like it.
But aesthetically, it's great. I love the look.
I love it.
It goes great with it. But functional for me, it just doesn't work well for me. I actually get a little bit fatigued from my hands. I find it slippery. It's a bit uncomfortable. It just functionally, it doesn't work well for me.
You need to get a pair of those grips, David, for those dainty hands.
Hey, dude, I'm just saying. I would like something that has. I need some type of texture, something that's running along those. I don't know what the fuck you'd call them, but just a little bit of texture would help me so goddamn much, because it's a beautiful handle. I love how that thing looks. It just functionally, it just doesn't work well for me, and it's so goddamn unfortunate.
I feel you. And I respect that. Ultimately,
I think it's.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's just funny because as soon as David came in, it's washing your rear ends, and dumb people shouldn't buy the razor. This is why. See, when David comes, he brings something entirely different, which is why he's on the show.
It's really fun. Yeah, I love the dichotomy. You guys have like the difference between the two of you is hilarious. I love it.
We're like the mullet of shaving. It's the business up front and the party in the back.
That's right. That's right.
That's pretty.
That's yet another great sound bit that you can't even make it up. It's great.
No,
great.
I mean,
let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Have you ever considered, and this is a question that was posed by the folks who say, hey, I love to get a Vector, but it's $200. What about something?
Son of a bitch. You didn't even let him address my handle question, you fuck.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I think he did. He said he can't do anything about it, more or less.
No, he said he won't do nothing about it. God damn it.
That's mainly true. Yeah. So,
would you consider Afterpay?
The Blackbird handle is so important and so like part of it that to then go and like, I don't know, add knurling to it or something like that would just be awful. So you're right, David. I am telling you I don't want to. I'm sorry.
So
I do for you. I'm sorry. I do wish that like.
No, you're good.
You can make everyone happy, but
So the question was, they say, the Vector at 200, would you consider using a system like Afterpay where people can buy the razor and pay it in payments? Yep. I noticed some people are doing that now. It seems to be popular with people. It's just something to consider that was posed to me.
Yeah, the answer is yes. So moving to a new website here should have been like last month, hopefully this month. We're getting there. That'll all kind of coincide with rebranding, and the new website will be much more functional in many ways, including that. We'll have options for Afterpay and stuff like that. Because that's nice. It's just another way for people to be able to buy if that benefits them.
We're going to go through some of these questions quickly. So Shane, I'm going to need you to put your pithy answering cap on here.
Are we trying to do like a real hard cap on that 1 hour?
We're trying to keep it as short as possible out of respect for folks. I'm not going to say it's an hour exactly, but we are trying to be respectful.
Oh, that's fine. I'm just asking,
I got time. I'm open to whatever. So,
Colombian Shave.
3 hours, baby. EBS Live 2.0. Let's go.
Yeah, maybe not 3 hours.
Will there be an uncoated version, and how durable is the coating? So I'm assuming he's talking about the era. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe, but not for right now. The coating is pretty damn durable. And
good enough.
I think that the black coating is cool. I think that it gives the overall kind of finished product look that I'm going for. I think that sometimes the uncoated like MIM stuff just looks a little raw and tool-like.
Yeah.
So I think kind of finishing that would be nice. We do have options to do kind of like tumble polishes and stuff like that. To not get like a perfect, like high-end mirror polish, but something good. And sorry, my phone is like freaking out. I think we have options to do that. So we have options to do some kind of different finishes, but it'll be black for now for the foreseeable future. And yeah, sorry, I kind of ruined the spirit of the lightning round. Sorry.
You know what? Fuck the lightning round, because I do have questions. I got here late, and I'm gonna ask questions when I have them. Goddamn it!
It's your show too, I think.
I'm just a guest on the show every other week.
Oh. Well, it's your show today.
This process that you're making, the era,
Yeah.
is this going to be the beginning of a full lineup of razors in this process, assuming that it's successful, assuming you have at least moderate success with this era?
Mm-hmm.
Is it going to be, are you going to do a single edge, a gem style razor, or whatever the fuck other razors are out there?
Yeah, it'll definitely be incorporated into the future. There's definitely plans to do that. Nothing is in production. You're not putting the cart before the horse, but the idea is that we'll have kind of like two tiers. I don't know if it'll have names for like lines or whatever, but I'm kind of thinking of it as sort of like the legacy stuff, like the machine stuff, the kind of higher end things. That'll still keep going, and that'll actually be developed, and we'll be growing that and having more products. And that's not slowing down at all. That's actually speeding up, doing more of that. But then we'll have the printed line, whatever we call it, the era line, and we definitely will be bringing out SE, assuming, like you said, assuming there's a market for it, assuming that it's successful, assuming that the era does well. There's already an SE in kind of early development to work with that, and that'll be kind of similar to the Vector, but not the Vector. What's important is that what we're not going to do, people have asked this, is like, are we going to make is there going to be a 3D printed Blackbird? And the answer is no. Because then like we're going to keep all that stuff there. All the kind of stuff we still make is just going to sit there. And then we'll have this stuff too. New products made in a new way.
Go ahead, David.
Oh, no, that's cool. That answered my question.
Okay. Dude of Shaving wants to know, who are your top 3 soap artisans?
Oh, man.
Just name 3 of your favorites.
This is a guy who hasn't listened to me or watched me in previous live.
Yeah, he set you up.
because yeah. So we actually talked about this last night. But the answer is, and every time I'm on a podcast, everyone asks me this. And the answer is that I just like not a soap guy. So I have like only a couple artisans that I use. But because of this week, I'm putting in a big order for like a ton of soap just so I can answer this question better. But so the guys that I like are people who have really good consistent businesses that I can buy products from quickly. I like 11, formerly supported Paulo. I love his stuff. I have some Oleo stuff around that I like, which I guess is now Chicago grooming company or whatever. Barrister and Man. I haven't had a longtime favorite was, I don't know why I can't think of the name. What was
Cold River?
Cold River's cool, but also the one with the giant container with the nice family business that has a really giant soap containers. They've been around for like one of the longest ones, and they always have like honesty and integrity, like the names of their products.
Oh, Soap Commander.
Thank you. Yeah, I was gonna say like Captain
awesome.
something,
Yeah.
but I knew it wasn't that.
That's
Soap Commander,
cool.
awesome. Yeah. Haven't used them in a while, but I have a couple of tubs because they're like the size of the Home Depot bucket. So you never go through them. Like them, and I guess I'm gonna find out how much I like Ariana and Evans, because I think I have a bunch of that coming after hanging out with Peter last night.
Hidman 27 wants to know, can you print other metals like copper or TI?
Not yet, but we will be able to. So 3DO is focusing on doing one thing and doing one thing really well. So they chose 17.4 because it's useful. It's good for a lot of things. Like its Venn diagram covers a lot of stuff. And so it's good for the medical industry, and it's good for things like firearms and stuff like that. So it's a good all-purpose metal. But there's certainly plans to expand into aluminums, titaniums, things like that. So there's a lot of possibility there.
The Razor Company wants to know, if you've considered making an Artist Club slant razor.
I don't think it's a valid thing. Because the benefit of like a real slant to me is in the torsion, like the twisting of the blade.
Mm-hmm.
And if all you're doing is rotating the blade, then you can just with your hand. So
there is some substance to that, yeah.
So I think that because you can't really twist a single edge blade, I don't think that there's a whole lot of merit in the slant. I could be totally wrong. To be fair, like I haven't actually followed any of the reviews of Above the Ties new razor.
I like it.
And I'm not here to talk shit about it at all. That's not what I'm saying. I just like I question whether it's like a necessary or super useful thing. Maybe I'll watch your video. I know you have one on it.
It's more akin to like there are slant razors where they don't really torque the blade, and that's essentially what it is. And so
I hated the Above the Tie slant, the regular DE one. I hated it. For me, it was a miserable razor to use. I could just never consistently find the cutting and go on that damn thing. And I don't have that issue very often, if ever.
Yeah,
so it was just a uniquely difficult razor for me. If I'm going to use a slant, I like the blades to be torqued. They're just kind of holding it kind of offset, which it just doesn't work well for me. I don't like it.
Well, here's the thing. Yeah. It's shaved well, but I don't. Sure. You can get a razor that's a slant and not necessarily be benefiting a lot from the slant cutting action. So I don't know whether I'm benefiting from a slant cutting action in some razors, but if it shaves well, I don't really care.
Yeah, I mean, my point is that it could be a really great shaving razor, and I'm sure it is because Above the Tie doesn't put out bad products at all. But I'm just not sure that it's great because of the slanting. Like, I don't think that adds. It probably doesn't add anything. It's my guess.
That makes sense.
Non-experienced, just kind of logically and thinking about it, I'm not sure. So I probably wouldn't, because even if it does, I don't think it's like enough of a needle mover for me to do it. Like at this stage in the game, like I really want to try to focus on things that like are really moving the needle in one way or another. And that can be in terms of price point or in terms of like, functionality. I just want to do things that like I think are really bring something new. And I'm not sure that brings enough new that I don't think I have like anything to add to that conversation really.
That's a good segue into our next question from DK, which is, would you say your best work is yet to be made?
I would hope so.
And he also wants to know if you're going to make an injector, because he's like the #1 fan of injectors. So please.
That's fun. Yeah. I've had a long running injector thing. Like I definitely want to make an injector, have some designs for them. What I'm trying to do right now is figure out, there's a lot of things I want to do, but the reality is I can't keep in stock the shit I have. So
that's a good point.
Like I'm not going to go, the era is kind of different because it's made in a different way. And I think we can walk and chew bubblegum at the same time with that one, because that's just going on somewhat like in parallel with the other stuff. But yeah, I'm not going to go add more to production than it can't keep up currently. So that does suck because I have a lot of cool ideas and a lot of fun things I want to do, but I'm not going to do them until I can like get everything back under control, be able to really get that tidied up and have a fully stocked website, have every finish, and then we start really playing with things. But yeah, injector for sure. I have some designs for it, but I also want to make it like, it has to do a lot of things really well. First, it has to actually inject. Like I don't want to make just a vector that's shorter. I don't care about that. The coolest part about injector is the injecting. Like it's just so badass. It's so fun. Like if it doesn't inject, I'm not going to use it. So it has to do that. But I'm trying to figure out like what production process we use for it. What kind of price point do I hit for it? Do we want it to be like a super premium thing? Or do we want it to be like a more widely accessible thing? Do we even want to go like kind of more broad stream with it, like Supply has, and kind of really try to like target a larger market? Like there's a lot of things you can do with it. But honestly, it won't be this year.
Are you doing razors full time? Is this your only profession at this point? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a full-time job for 3-4 years. And it's been a really good job for the last 18 months, 2 years.
Let me ask you this. Has the Truderi razor, the reception to it seems to be hit or miss? Is that just my perception is off, or is there any reality to that?
there's, I don't know. I think that it's been mostly pretty well liked.
Mm-hmm.
It's also difficult, I think, to live up to the expectations of something that's so like mythological. So I think that kind of no matter what you do, there's going to be a certain amount of people like, oh, it's really not worth $1,000. But the reality is, it never should have been like that. It's a really good razor. Yes. I think it's really high quality. And we are making more. We'll have more in June. We're pretty close, 2 to 4 weeks out. We're just at late.
You guys purchased Truderi, or what's the situation there?
Yeah. So yeah, I'm glad you asked. So definitely don't own Truderi. So we got put in contact. I got put in contact with Richard, the Truderi designer, founder, Truderi, about maybe 2 years ago now. And basically he had kind of entertained the idea of having his razor back. He's not like a wet shaver. He's not in the community. He doesn't know what's going on. And so I guess somebody tracked him down and said, hey, your razors are selling for like $1,000 on eBay. And he thinks that's hilarious and stupid. Richard is the coolest. He's this awesome retired dude. He's one of those people that when you talk to him, you're like, how have you done all that in one life? He like worked in Hollywood, in a production studio. He's also like a lawyer. He's a professor. He's just one of these people that just does a ton of stuff, and also a random razor maker, just for fun. So I got put in contact with him, and he's just such a cool dude that he just gets a kick out of it. He gets a kick out of the fact that people here, whatever, 8 years later, care about his little hobby project that he did a long time ago. And so he was super willing to work with me and allow me to bring it back. So we have a licensing deal that's super friendly. He's not in it for the money. But, you know, he owns, I want to make sure that we don't go in and just copy it, do it the right way. And, you know, he has a design patent, but design patents are easily like worked around. So it's not super, you know, robust in any way. But if I wanted to do it, I don't really care that much about the design. I think it's really beautiful, but you can make a lot of really cool razors. But to me, it's just like, I wanted to have it at Truderi. I want to make it like actually that product. And so we did a little bit of tiny tweaks to it to kind of like tidy up the machining, because honestly it wasn't like that great. And so we made, you know, some small revisions, but I'm super proud of it. I think it's great. I actually think this next batch we're working on will be even better. We kind of tweaked the etching and engraving a bit. We went to like a stronger laser. It gets a deeper, much better engraving and scaled a little better. So I think it'll be good. And
David,
I like it.
Do you have any questions? Because I'm going to close it out and ask Shane a final question if you don't have anything, but I wanted to kick it to you first.
No, not at all. Well, actually, Shane, would you consider yourself a hobbyist shaver? It's just kind of a thing to me. I really get a kick out of it, or I really love when vendors are actually invested in the community, not just to make the money, you know. And if you are just to make money, that's fine. I understand. But I don't know. I just have an affinity. I have a real love for vendors that are really, truly a part of our community, and that are invested in its prosperity, not just for their own pocket's sake, but just for the love of the community.
So, yeah, that is such a great question. To answer your question, I don't even know how to describe myself, because the reality is, like, I don't use a ton of soaps. I don't use a ton of razors. I have used a bunch of them. And so in that way, it's like, oh, I guess I'm not really a hobbyist. But when we talk about like caring about the community, I definitely feel like I'm part of the community. The reality is that like I make a really nice living and I'm super happy with it, but like I'm not getting rich off this. You know, I'm here and I love engaging with the community. I love sitting on the phone, just talking razors with people. I love, you know, just helping people any way I can. That's why I hop on the forums all the time. I'll like help people and just answer your questions that have nothing to do with Blackland. I'm not there to sell shit. You could be cynical and say that like, oh, well, you're trying to like improve your brand by being recognized. And like, I don't know how to counter that, but like, I just see it as like, I'm engaged with the community. And I think I fell into,
I'm not a cynic like that. I don't put deep thought into people's actions like that. If you're doing good, I don't really give a fuck what your motives are. If you do good, you do good. And that's usually fine enough for me.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, I would say that I fell into being a hobbyist by being a business first, or being a vendor first. But I mean, I sat on the phone talking to a guy for like 35 minutes today. You don't do that to sell one razor. Like it doesn't really, that doesn't move the needle enough. And so if you're there trying to squeeze every dime out of the thing, you don't do shit like that. But I love my customers, and I love the community, and I love just kind of being part of it. And so I've actually found a lot more value in that over time than I kind of thought I would, because reality is like, I'm not into shaving just because like randomly. Like I'm into shaving because I'm in it, and because I'm, I have a product, and because I'm good at it, and because like I really care about that kind of intricacies and details. But now that I'm in, like I'm definitely like a hobbyist in that way. Like it's almost like I love the community more than I love like the shaving at this point. But like I think most of my customers are better shavers than I am. Like of course, I love making products. I love caring about it. I love like engaging the community. But like shaving to me is fun. It's nice, but it's not like I'm not as much a hobbyist of the shaving as my customers are, for sure.
Let me ask you this, and this will be the final question for someone who's never used or purchased a razor from you, but maybe they're looking at it, they're seeing you for the first time this evening. What do you say to that person? What do they need to know about Blackland?
Oh, yeah. I would say that, if you put it in one word, I try to just have as much integrity as possible. So, that's what you get. You get like integrity in design. I care a lot about designing products that I think are, aesthetically beautiful and cohesive, and that fit like in my lineup well. A lot of thought goes into all that stuff, and I try to work with the best vendors and source, the best everything that I can. I'm not perfect, but I just try to have integrity in everything I do. I make a lot of mistakes, and I just try to own them and treat people as best as I can. So I think that's that's what Blackland brings, and that's the one thing that as we're growing and bringing on employees and getting on like outsourcing more stuff, that's the thing that I'm most concerned with preserving, is just keeping that integrity at every level and making sure that we continue to treat people super well, and like live up to that reputation that I think I've earned over the last 5 years. And that's kind of what I think you should know, is that like you're working with a company who gives a damn. And I think
last question, because I lied.
Yeah.
When are we expecting to see the era now? Because somebody did ask that, and I forgot to really.
Yeah, so I think we're looking at June-ish. My hope is that we have, we got another week in this month. My hope and expectation is that we kind of wrap up those final tiny production things, basically around the finish, just getting that kind of the supply side of that tidied up. And I think that will be done, and we'll have some packaging done hopefully by the end of month. And basically the goal is that we will have those heading out to reviewers, and then there'll be kind of like a 2-week-ish, maybe even less window, and then the windows orders will open up. So June-ish, I hope. I think June. I don't see any reason why June wouldn't work, but the reality is it takes as long as it takes, and it'll be done right when it's done. But I think June.
Well, thank you so much, Shane, for joining us. It's been a good conversation. I appreciate that you took the time to, we're committing to not going too long, because we realize people have been worn out this week with lives, 3-hour live, 2-hour live. And so we don't want to pile on. And because look, there's a lot of guys out there right now that are asking for time away from their wives to watch this. And they've asked for 3 kitchen passes already this week. And so we're trying to be a little more respectful of their time, and also your time, because I know you're a busy guy, because we got to get you in there making those eras so we can get them in our hands. I really thank you for joining us. This will be going on YouTube, by the way, tomorrow, so many more people will see it and have a chance to comment on it. David, any last words?
Hey, Shane, thank you for popping on. I know you've had a busy week. You've fucking done 65 podcasts and lives this week. Thank you for coming on. I hope this was able to bring some value to you and your business. And, hopefully we see you around, man. Again, I love members of the community. Hopefully we can catch you on Facebook a little bit more. Lather and Blade Facebook group. We'd love to have you. There's a whole lot of nonsense going on in there. You seem to enjoy a little bit of wackiness, and we have plenty of it.
Hey, I appreciate it, man. And congrats on the win again, David. This is a lot of fun. Yeah, I love these. I've been trying to put my, my little face out there more and just try to hang out with you guys. Honestly, because I don't know if this moves the needle like in sales, like maybe a little bit, but really it's just fun, right? Like it's fun to hang out. It's fun to get another perspective of people who are more engaged in the hobby than I am. So I love that, and I think it's good for me. It's good for everyone. But appreciate you having me on. I loved it, and I hope we can do it again sometime.
We will definitely do it again. I thank you so much. We look forward to seeing the era and all the other great things that are surely to come from Blackland. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. I really appreciate you all. God bless each and every one of you. Good night.